My name's Shireen Maalherbi. I'm a British Palestinian author of novels and children's books. I'd say hugely. I grew up in the UK, so I didn't have too much exposure to my Palestinian roots, and I travelled in my 20s back to my heritage homeland of Palestine, and I really saw Palestine for the first time through that lens. So what I saw, I began to capture in stories and turn them into novels. So the background has influenced my entire writing career for the past 10-15 years. I mean, it's an incredible blessing, alhamdulillah, and the opportunity as well to reach people in different countries. And I also think it's representative of how people feel about Palestine. So people want to know about Palestine, want to see this intimate view of Palestine, and that isn't just in English-speaking countries, that's in Asia, that's in other continents. So I think it expresses that as well, that demand for Palestinian literature. Okay, so Yassini Girls is my fourth novel, and it is really my most personal story yet. So whenever I go to Palestine, I discover stories and I spend time with my family, and there's so much that the world doesn't get to see about Palestine. So that's really my driver for writing my novels. And Yassini Girls is my own family history. So it takes you right back to the 1940s and discovers how what happened over the entire generation. So it's multi-generational. What happened in my Tata's lifetime, before hers, leading right up to the present. I'd say the most rewarding moment is hearing from readers who have connected with the book. I have people tell me that they've discovered things about Palestine that they never knew, that they felt like they were there. And I think that's the biggest reward for me, is to take people to a country that maybe they don't have the blessing to visit. A lot of Palestinians themselves can't even go to Palestine. And when they read my books, it's like transports them to Palestine and to the true Palestine for people to see it. My work covers mostly Palestine, but I also do sort of migrant books as well. So it's more about the experience of the diaspora, and also about how the truth about how people view the Middle East. So we still exist in sort of Western society with a very Orientalist view of the Middle East, and what my books do, whether they're for grown-ups or for children, is to dismantle that and show a real, more authentic perspective of the Middle East. So I'll probably continue down that route. And actually, all of my books, I sort of weave the recipes into my stories. So every single one of my books will be taking you into Palestinian houses and into families, and we'll teach you some really popular recipes like makluba and musakan, so that readers can sort of recreate it at home. As for a separate cookbook, I'm not that talented. Well, Emirates Literature Festival is a huge festival, and the amazing thing about it is that it brings people from all over the world to one space. So I think the international gathering and to be able to share our stories with each other and meet different people is one of the biggest positives of the literary festival. And just being able to showcase what's a really personal family story, especially as my Tata's not with us anymore, and to share that with people and her life and her history with a new generation in Dubai is an incredible opportunity. Well, I think now, with everyone being so spread about, I mean, the last figures I looked, which was a while ago, a few years, in UNICEF, was that there was 17 million displaced children, moving from the east to the west. And what I noticed is an erosion of culture, and what I wanted to do was to give children and adults, but focusing on the children's range, children an opportunity to celebrate their heritage, to discover their roots, to hold on to it. So although we all live all over the world, to really keep that connection with their homeland, and that's what my books encourage them to do. I think it's important to surround their children with things that remind them of home. So recipes, pictures of home, books and stories about home that really keep them connected to the land. So the reason storytelling is so powerful is because you don't often forget great stories. And if you raise your children with these stories rooted in their homeland, it can really help to counter all the other influences in their lives and keep them rooted to their culture. So seeing themselves in books is incredibly important. Yeah, well, I think kids are massively into social media and YouTube, but I don't think that necessarily means there's not a place for books. So storytelling is more powerful because it's more longer lasting. So when they sort of move through books, they're more likely to hold on to things. Also, there is an entire new generation of storytellers, and whether that is through digital media or through books or both, there's room for everything. Books will last. Sometimes it's when you have things on social media, it's quite instant, it comes, it goes. With books, it's more longer lasting, so it can last generations. So I would say to youth who have their stories, learn to tell great stories, write them in books, do social media and YouTube to accompany them. I'm doing that as well, but you know, telling stories will last a lifetime. I think it's important to let them read often, buy books and have them in the house, and encourage them to tell their stories in many different ways. You know, telling a story traditionally was just by talking and orally. Now it can be writing, now it can be through videos. So teach them to connect with what's important to them, and then hopefully they'll find the platform for them to share their stories. I think it's just really connecting with people who it's altered them in some way. So whether they love books or whether they like to travel to different places without leaving home. Literary festivals are a great place because it brings all of us together in that one meeting place, so we can talk about how they felt about the book. And it always surprises me to hear readers' reactions, to see which bits they interacted with, which they loved, which bits that made them connect with their own heritage. And you know, that only really comes to life at places like the literature festivals. Just thank you for reading. Keep buying books, keep reading. It is you know, a fight we have to represent cultures, underrepresented voices, and it's really important to keep those connections, and books are one way and writing is two ways of doing that.